Today, I am thrilled to welcome Ashish Pandya to the show. Ashish is a seasoned HR leader with more than 16 years of global experience. A strategic force in people operations, he is certified at the senior level through SHRM, and he is also trained in ProSci change management and talent management practices. Throughout his career, he's driven major initiatives in talent management, organizational transformation, and workforce scalability across the US, Canada, and India. He is currently a senior HR leader at Amazon, overseeing large scale operations and supporting more than 20,000 employees during peak seasons. Ashish, it is an honor and a pleasure to have you. Welcome to the MSHR podcast.
Thank you, Ria. I'm so excited to speak with you today, and it's my pleasure to be here.
Likewise, thank you for taking the time out for us. So my first question to you is scaling back to your career. I would like to know what originally drew you to the human resources field and how has your understanding of the function evolved over your career?
Thank you for that question, Ria. See, my entry into HR was not organic, and when I say like organic, I'm referring to someone who already wanted to be in HR. They pursue an HR degree basically, and then they kind of start an HR career. For me, that was not the case. So basically, this was back in 2007-8. Basically, during a subprime crisis, there was a global recession going on, and for coincidentally, I kind of passed out from my college at that point in time, and then it was important for me to kind of join the workforce. And then this was back in India. So I kind of found an opportunity with a global recruiting firm. And then this was a technical recruiting firm wherein we used to recruit for the US based clients, and then mainly the technical, roles. So while working in that role, although it was focused on kind of recruiting, that was my first realization is hey, I mean, I always knew I'm good in working with people. I think I carried genuine passion in that area, but then working in recruiting, made me think that, hey, HR is an option, and then I should seriously consider that. Uh, uh, few few other roles which I took up after that with different organizations. I would like to recall them as my building blocks, wherein I moved into recruiting, technical recruiting, non-technical recruiting. I moved into learning and development, worked as a trainer, basically worked in the HR generalist role before landing HRBP role with Walmart India. And then that's where basically I started connecting these dots in terms of how to relate HR with the business strategy, and then that entire climate. But then since then, my curiosity has driven me so far, wherein I continue to network with the senior HR leaders. I continue to stay updated with what are kind of the current trends and the upcoming trends in HR. I continue to enroll for those programs, sometimes self-learning, sometimes I actually paid the fees and then learned those certifications. And then that's how I kind of learned about HR over a period of time. I also got lucky to work in different countries. I spent almost 10 years of my initial HR career in India. Then I moved to Canada, spent some 5 years there, and then for past 1.5 year, I have been in the US. So yeah, that has been my HR journey so far.
That's lovely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And discussing more about your starting your senior HR roles, I would like to know, like looking back, what skills or mindsets do you wish you had developed earlier before stepping into these senior leadership roles, and why?
That is an excellent question. So see, um, on the top of my head, I could think of three things. One is business acumen.
Mm,
Developing business acumen early on in the career, would have helped me, could have helped me. Because see, initially my thought process is HR is like you are being kind of like an employee advocate, which is true. But then if you do not kind of link it with the business strategy, that would hamper
mm,
your effectiveness. That would limit your effectiveness. So one is business acumen. Second will be data-driven decision making. I have had multiple discussions during the early and the mid stage of my career, wherein I'm talking to some really senior leaders like the general managers and the directors, wherein they are asking me for assess what would be the ROI of this initiative, and then I struggle to kind of like answer. I like although I was very passionate, but then like I struggle to kind of like support my proposals with
Mhm.
data. So like like if I would have developed data driven decision making or some data analytics kind of like learned early on in my career, that could have helped. And last but not the least is uh, change ability or change adaptability, basically. So I kind of like say like at early on in my career, I was little resistance to change. I think that's very human thing to kind of like do.
Mhm.
However, kind of like when I look back, and I believe had I been kind of like pro change, and then like had I proactively embraced change early on in my career, that would have helped me. I think like these three things I would say, had I learned it earlier, that would really have helped my career at this point.
I think that's great insight, and I totally agree with you. Even when you look at what's the requirement in the market nowadays, I feel like business acumen, data-driven decision making within human resources, and even being adaptable to change and open to it are just great skills to have and really required. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Of course.
Um, Going on to my next question,
Mhm.
because you have had experiences with great big organizations and currently even like Walmart, Amazon. Um, in your experience, what does strategic human resources look like in practice when leading the HR function for such big organizations?
I would start with my like reiterating the point of like, see, HR is not about HR programs. Unless you link HR programs with the business strategy, that would not help. That like, that would be kind of like, working in the isolation, right? So
Mhm.
one is definitely kind of like understanding the business and linking HR programs with the business strategy. That will be one. Um, Second point, see, like scalability is very important, right? So, especially for the large organizations like Amazon, like you really need to come up with the ideas and the processes and the programs that not only work but then also are scalable for a business which has like Amazon has more than 1.3, 1.4 million kind of like people. The
Mhm.
business I work would have easily more than 100,000 people in only in the United States,
Mhm.
right? So like any idea or a program you kind of like come up with, it should be scalable. uh, Third is working backwards from the associate, right? So uh, uh, unless you kind of like so that level of like associate obsession, it would be difficult to kind of like achieve higher employee satisfaction. So uh, and then yes, last but not the least, technology adoption, right? So like technology, like that definitely is, I would tie it back to my previous point, wherein that actually helps making any initiative, any program more scalable, and then like make it reach to multiple people at the same time. So I think like these are like three four things which I believe helps HR in Amazon to kind of like deliver to the associates and the business.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I do agree. I feel like, especially in terms of scalability, it's so important that if you come up with a program and it needs to be backed with business strategy, because if it's not really going to get you the results you need. But it also needs to be scalable so that it can grow with the business. I truly appreciate you sharing that, Ashish. Thank you. Um, so there's a lot of changes we've witnessed in the past few years, especially ever since COVID, and now with the advent of AI and the immense usage of AI in every function. So what are the top five HR trends that you believe will be most impactful in the coming year or in the coming years? And why do they matter for organizations and HR professionals, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so let me start with the buzzword today. Like everyone is talking about AI, right? So
Mm-hmm.
AI is kind of like definitely is the trend which is currently impacting, and I believe uh, organizations and individuals fully realize the potential of AI, it would continue to impact the world around, like, for next 5 to 10 years, or kind of like even more than that. So AI, see, it is kind of like impacting with the individual productivity. It is impacting in terms of how we design our performance management and talent acquisition
Of
systems.
course.
It is impacting our learning and development. Basically, with the use of AI, we are able to make the learning and development more hyper customized, I would say. So that is there. Second, like, with the use of AI technology or otherwise, I would say, um, the the future trend in a near future which I see is there would be a lot of power that would be put in hands of the employees in terms of self-service I'm referring to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wherein, like, I believe the technology will perhaps shatter the current model of um, like, employees talking to HR for the support. Now the
Mm-hmm.
new model is like, like you have everything at your fingertips, and then you kind of like, meet with the actual HR representative, right? Only if you have some really exceptional scenarios, and then those kind of things, right? So that is kind of like second. Third will be, I would see, um, leadership capabilities in terms of finding true leaders, finding true people leaders. Although, like, we have a lot of trained workforce that is actually coming, but then, like, kind of like high performing talent or high potential talent would still be in demand.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, there would be a very, very fierce competition among the industry players to attract those talent. It has to do with the willingness. It has to do with people's ability to exercise high judgment, because AI
Mm-hmm.
would still automate what is low value, high volume kind of like task. But then, like, leaders who could kind of like, see, holistic picture and then take a decision. So leaders with kind of like that kind of mindset, that kind of capabilities would be in demand. Fourth will be compensation. Like, people, like, I mean, when I started my HR career, I have worked with the very rigid compensation model, whether you, like, want it or not, but then there it would have some fixed elements, and then, like, all the employees, future employees, and the current employees would be offered that same model, right? And then there were
Mm-hmm.
very limited room of flexibility when it comes to those compensation models. But then now there is a realization that, like, make it more customizable, so people could kind of like create their own basket, basically from the bouquet of the benefits, from the bouquet of the pay components, right? So that's a trend which I think would impact. And yeah, I think, like, these are some, like, three, four trends I see
Mm-hmm.
would impact HR as a profession. And I mean, see, like, one more, if I could add it, it would be about kind of like, skill-based hiring. And
Mm-hmm.
I would tie it back to kind of like a famous book of Yuval Noah Harari, right? Wherein it was Sapiens, I believe, wherein he kind of mentioned that, 3 generations before, people kind of like, worked in the, or like 4 generations before, people worked in the agriculture farms, most of the people.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, with the industrial revolution, they, like, the industries were able to train them and put them on the assembly line. Then there was a wave wherein kind of like, people did one specialization, one worked with the one employer throughout their life.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe my generation is kind of like, or like my previous generation, our previous generation, worked in one profession, although with multiple employers.
Mm-hmm.
However, with the advent of AI, with the advent of multiple technologies, I see now the time would be multiple careers, multiple employers, or like a lot of freelancing kind of like, opportunities as well. Because, like, what you are working on, or what you have worked before 16 years, 20 years, might become obsolete, might become
Mm-hmm.
outdated, like, quickly, and then you would be required to kind of like learn some new things, right? So I think, like, that is kind of like something which I see impacting, like, all roles in general, and then HR in particular.
I appreciate that, Ashish. I think that's a brilliant take. about what really impacts within the human resources profession and the trends that we're seeing or that will be upcoming. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Of course.
I know I have a lot of questions for you, so I'll try to keep this short, but I have just two more questions for you, which I think our students would really be interested in hearing your answers to. Um, what human resource technologies or data practices do you think will shape the next decade of human resources? And how should students start building data fluency, including the level of analytics you expect to see in human resource roles today? Just going back to like how you shared that this is a skill that is important. For our graduates that are coming up specifically, how should they really build these skills and showcase them to employers?
Are you able to like throw some more light? I mean, is this more
Of
about
course,
like the talent systems from employer perspective, or it is more about like from the student perspective?
from the student perspective in building their resume and learning how to
Hmm.
break into the market. So if let's say, for example, I come to you as a fresh graduate with my profile and my resume, what skills, specifically, what data skills would you like to see in me as a
Understood.
fresh grad entry within the human resources field?
Got it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Hurriya,
Of
for
course.
making, or like, thank you for simplifying the question for me.
My pleasure.
Of course. So see, like first and foremost, like some foundational courses in AI. I see there are a lot of free courses available on AI basically, right? Because see, AI multiplies your productivity, AI multiplies your like saves time for you, right? So some foundational courses like like prompt engineering, like those kind of small modules could definitely help. AI is kind of like really you could see it as a PhD who is working at your command, but you should know what to ask, right? So
Hmm.
like something on generative AI basically, or like to be more specific, prompt engineering, some small modules you could spend couple of hours and then understand the basics of it. Second would be kind of like change management. There are various models to change, right?
Hmm.
And from LinkedIn learning to some advanced courses are available out in the market depending
Hmm.
upon how much you would like to invest on that. So like some
Hmm.
basics of change management would definitely help. And then see this change methodologies are not only for the workplace. Like this starts with kind of like individual and then like you could apply the same model to kind of like anywhere, right?
Hmm.
So that is second. Like third, um, with like basis my last almost 5.5, 6 years with Amazon, I see there are a lot of cross-functional work. There are a lot of project-based work, even in a regular HR business partnering role.
Hmm.
So like if someone does not want to kind of like go for a full-fledged PMP kind of like roles, but then like going with some smaller certification in project management, like
Hmm.
makes you understand how the budgeting, controlling, resource allocation and then things like that works basically, that could kind of like really catch the interest of the recruiter or the hiring manager basically.
Hmm.
uh yeah, and then this is in addition to kind of like your core functional knowledge, right? So
Of
these are
course.
some of the areas I would say like these are some of the certifications I would say are important and then could kind of
Hmm.
like get your maybe like next job.
Thank you for sharing that. And just to recap the platforms that we can use, you're suggesting that LinkedIn Learning is a great platform to learn from. And then if there's any specific certifications, for example, from PMI for CAPM or
Correct.
PMP, that would be great. I think that's brilliant. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I have been using Coursera. That has been excellent. There
Hmm.
are a lot of Google Analytics certificates. There are a lot of certificates from IBM which are available, and then you could have a kind of like a premium login wherein you pay
Mm.
some like monthly fixed fees, which I believe is relatively nominal basically, and then you kind of like
Mm.
complete those data analytics or like even the AI or like I mean they have wide area
Mm.
or wide variety of courses. You could complete
Got
them in
it.
within 6 months. So see if someone is actively working in a student life, right? Like
Mm.
spending maybe a 1 hour like 5 days in a week, that could really help them kind of like complete a lot of those courses over a period of kind of 6 months or a 1 year, I would say.
Yeah, so just definitely keep upskilling yourself, especially looking at how things are changing rapidly in the dynamic market. I think our students will really appreciate that insight.
Of
Thank
course.
you.
Yeah.
So as we're wrapping up, and I'm aware that this might be a repetition, so you're free to just keep it. If you think we've already answered these questions, then we can skip it. But um, how is artificial intelligence transforming the human resources landscape today? And what practical applications of AI should organizations be paying attention to as they look to the future of human resources? And I know we've spoken generally in how this is impacting, employee productivity or how even performance management systems are being managed. But to add to that, if you would like to talk about how it's really transforming how we see human resources and how it was traditionally, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So see, as I mentioned in one of my responses,
Mm,
right, see, AI, to start with, AI will kind of like, replace those tasks which are low value and high volume. And then that
mm,
does not require exercising high judgment. Right. So that's where we would definitely see those kind of like tasks. And then to kind of like build on that, I would say self-service, employee self-service. There will be a lot of policy related questions. There would be a lot of leave related questions. There will be a lot of transactional questions, which I believe, at least based on my Amazon experience or like based on my last 10 years of experience with multiple employers, would perhaps constitute some 70 to 80% of the employee queries. Right.
mm,
So AI would kind of like, start impacting that area. So that would help building higher employee satisfaction. Second area will be kind of like, like personalized training. Uh,
mm,
like the limitation of the current training models in most
mm,
cases is there is a one size fits for all. Even the assessment questions are kind of like same for everyone.
mm,
Even the pace, although we have kind of like, done some work on the pace piece basically, but then there is no real time assessment, right? And I see some learning platforms have already started kind of like, offering a personalized training module. So based on your interactive responses to the app, like, they would kind of like increase the quality, pace, and even the difficulty level of the training content, right? So that is kind of like something which is impacting that. Third will be, I believe there will be an immediate impact on talent acquisition space, wherein it will kind of like, and then I would also tie this up with the performance management. What I have seen, like, you could write a lot of reviews with the help of AI. Of course,
mm,
like, you would need to validate that input with the human intelligence and all, but then that would kind of like, really help you with more laborious and a tactical part of it, right? So like, it will be AI built into the workflows. Right now, it's kind of like, some app based, and then you need to kind of like work on that, and you still need to transfer data from this app to this app. But I believe uh, like, once organizations start building this AI into workflow of their systems, we would see more organization level effectiveness when it comes to kind of like AI.
mm,
uh, yeah, like, these are some of the areas which I think have already started seeing impact of AI. And then like,
mm,
AI will continue to change the face of kind of like, these areas. We would definitely see some better predictive models
mm,
in some other areas, which could be used in succession planning, in workforce planning, and talent management and all. But then like, that would really require some more learning for AI to kind of like do. But to start with, well, self-service talent acquisition, performance management uh, are some of the areas where AI has already started impacting.
Thank you so much, Ashish. I think that was a very holistic overview, and you really discussed in detail of everything that really could be impacted by AI. And I know I said that this was technically the last question, but your answer got my wheels turning to the point where I'm starting to think about the fact that we've seen that there's been mass layoffs in the market with how AI has entered. And I think our students would love to know whether in regards to human resources or any function really. Um, how do you believe we can make ourselves indispensable in such a climate when it comes to working with AI? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah. So see, okay, see, layoffs are the reality of today, right? And see, organizations will continue to assess their needs. They will continue to review their top line, bottom line, and then make those informed decisions. And that's the reason we kind of like see it industry-wide kind of like layoffs. It's not about one or two employers. It's like we see it with
Mm-hmm.
multiple industries, right? Um, but few thing that comes on the top of my mind, I believe AI would still not replace where a high judgment decision making is required. So continuing to kind of like focusing on the skills or the roles or the profiles that require exercising high judgment more often than regular would kind of like be the roles which which organizations are likely to kind of like not replace with AI. um, Second will be kind of like a continuous learning, as I kind of like shared
Mm-hmm.
in response to one of the questions earlier. The mindset was, hey, I have done my MBA into human resources and then now I'm set for like next 30 years. I
Mm-hmm.
think like that is very rapidly going away. Even within HR you would need to kind of like learn a lot of micro and macro skills on a continuous basis, right? That will be second.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Third will be like understanding the business. Many a times people are really smart, they exercise high judgment, but if they do not understand business, right? Especially I'm talking about the enabling functions or the support functions like HR and others. You would need to understand kind of like the business and then work backwards to kind of like make yourselves indispensable, uh,
Mm-hmm.
I would say. And yeah, I think like these are some of the points that come to my mind when you ask that question.
Thank you for that insight, Ashish. Just to recap, like you said, AI can't replace high judgment. So definitely work on your understanding and your high judgment and keep educating yourself, I guess. Thank you
Yeah,
so much. And
of
thank you
course.
so much for your time today, Ashish. This is all very invaluable, and I know our students will really enjoy listening to this podcast. And I hope you have a lovely evening. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Harry. I enjoyed
Thank you.
interacting with you.
Thank you so much.